Hello everyone. Thanks for joining my channel today. This is the Facts on JW channel. I'm Casey, your host, and today we are going to be talking about some what I like to call JW hangups. So there's quite a few, and I don't know that I can review them all in one video, so there may be a part 2 to this. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is the JW hangups on particular customs. So Jehovah's Witnesses have recently, or maybe I should say the governing body, has recently decided that we can now toast. Okay, well, that's a new one for me. I have never heard that before in my life. I was always told that any of those kinds of things are considered superstitious, coming from pagan origins. That's why Jehovah's Witnesses don't say God bless you when you sneeze. They don't say good luck, and they don't wish you good luck, best wishes, anything like that. So they consider that superstitious and coming from a pagan source. But apparently, now it's okay to toast. And I know you've heard this already, but I just wanted to put my little 2 cents out there and let you know what I think of the whole toasting thing. And the funny thing about it, though, is they mentioned toasting before in an old book called How to Remain in God's Love. And it's not that old, actually, but they mention the origins of toasting. And let's see what they have to say about that. Okay, everybody, so now I have found the article that I was looking for. It is under the book How to Remain in God's Love, under the origins of toasting. Let's just see what it says. It says, a common practice at weddings and other social occasions is toasting. During a toast, one person expresses good wishes while others raise their glasses. How should a Christian view this? Well, according to the International Handbook on Alcohol and Culture, hold up a minute. You're quoting from another worldly source? How can you do that, Watchtower? I thought you got all of your messages from Jehovah God, sent to Jesus and then to the faithful slave. Why would you quote from a pagan or worldly source? Oh, okay, I get it. It's whenever it's convenient to you, you quote from it. Whatever. So, continuing on, according to this international handbook, it says that toasting probably comes from an ancient pagan custom in which a sacred liquid was offered to the gods. Oh, okay. Probably? So there's not a guarantee on this one, huh? We don't know for sure. It's just a maybe. So this, it says, was done in exchange for a wish, a prayer summarized in the words, long life or to your health. In ancient times, people used to raise their cups to ask their gods for a blessing. But that is not how Jehovah provides blessings. No. So, according to Watchtower, they're telling you that it's not a good idea to toast because it probably came from an ancient pagan custom. But at the same time, they tell you stuff that makes you question what you're supposed to actually do. It says here, Christians need to be very careful to avoid any celebrations that dishonor God. Right, okay. Not all celebrations are connected with immorality, false religion, or nationalism. If a celebration does not violate Bible principles, we need to make a personal decision about whether we will take part in it. We also want to consider how our decision will affect others. Okay, so in other words, we are allowed to have celebrations as long as they don't dishonor God. Okay, so does that mean toasting is okay? Because it's not dishonoring God And there's no proof in the Bible that this is a problem or against Jehovah God. So you see how they flip-flop? One minute they say it's wrong, you shouldn't do it. And another minute they say, well, maybe it's depends on your own Bible-based conscience. That's what you have to do. Go by the Bible-based conscience. And by the way, here's some plagiarized information that we found because it's convenient to us for now. But anything else that's quoted from some other source may not be. So go figure on that one. But let's see what else Let has to say about toasting.
Wise, mature Christians don't need a rule for every situation. Instead, we look at each situation and consider Bible principles. If no Bible law is directly involved, then we use our Bible-trained conscience to make a good decision.
We make Bible-based conscious decisions to make a good decision. Okay, exactly. So, in other words, we can make our own decisions, right? Based on the Bible as a Jehovah's Witness. But that's not enough for a Jehovah's Witness. They have to listen to everything that the governing body says as they continue to change their rules on everything. Like, for example, they have already made lots of changes since about a year ago. For the last 100 years, men had to have clean shaven face. They could have a mustache, but no beard. They had to wear a full suit and tie. If they were out in field service and it was hot, they could take their jacket off, but they still had to wear a tie. The women always have to wear dresses or skirts that go past their knee. But now, women can wear pants as long as they're dressy. Men can no longer need to wear a tie unless they're up on the platform. Then they have to wear suit and tie and dresses. And then the other thing is counting time. That was a big thing. Now they don't have to count time. They just have to say, yes, I went out in field service. Check the box. Men can have beards now. And before, you would get in trouble for that. You couldn't have any privileges. You couldn't even go out in field service if you had a beard. You would be in trouble. But now it's okay because the governing body said so. So you don't have to count time anymore. You just have to say that you went out in field service. Unless you're a regular or auxiliary pioneer, then you do have to count that time. And so there's just been so many changes that has got to be really hard for the hardcore JW zealot believers, although a lot of times they will just follow no matter what. But I would think they've got to be questioning, is this okay? And I'm not okay with it. I'm sure Anthony Morris is not happy with the way things have been going, and maybe that's why he's not there anymore. It's hard to say. But what we do know is the governing body is always making their own rules, and they're not using the Bible. They just make up things on a whim and cherry pick scripture to make it sound like it is something Jehovah said. So now let's see what Let has to say about making decisions when it comes to hangups.
Well, here are 3 basic principles to consider. Number 1, would Jehovah be offended by this?
Well, I certainly hope he wouldn't be offended by this because it's just toasting, just like it's saying, hey, good luck, I hope all goes well. Can't say that. Well, toasting is okay, but saying good luck is not okay. And saying bless you when you sneeze, that's wrong. Yeah, even though it doesn't have a religious connotation anymore. But, we got to keep the JW tradition going. You see what I'm talking about? These constant hang-ups. It's enough to create an insane amount of anxiety in the witnesses, and I really truly feel sorry for them.
Number 2, How would this affect others in the congregation? Even if a symbol or custom isn't wrong in itself, we need to consider how others in the congregation might view it.
Well, we wouldn't want to offend anybody in the congregation. We can't be thinking about ourselves. We have to be humble and remember how people are judgmental. And we have to be remembering how other people think and feel about us. Because if that doesn't give you anxiety, nothing will.
Number 3, how is this symbol or custom viewed by people in my culture or community? The way they are viewed can change over time.
So, how do people in your community view you toasting? Well, I'm sure they don't have a problem with it. But if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you're a governing body member, you have to nitpick every little nitty-bitty thing to death. And I think, again, it just creates so much anxiety in the witnesses. Let quotes from an Awake article of 1976. What should be a Christian attitude toward shapes and designs that have at some point been connected with false religion, such as a necktie or a dress or jewelry? I mean, really, you're going to nitpick those things? I mean, how in the world can you even function if that's all you're thinking about? And so what are you to do in that case? Oh, well, he says, according to an Awake article of 1976, many times a design will change in significance according to location and time. A certain shape may have a particular meaning to an observer at one time and place, but a different meaning to another observer elsewhere in another age or in another age. Okay, so why are we nitpicking all this stuff? And then he talks to us like we're children, like we don't know, like, oh, by the way, guys, in case you're in a country that doesn't accept the cultures that you're used to, you might offend someone. Oh, okay. Well, I think we can figure that out on our own. We're not little kids here.
An example that illustrates the importance of timing is string lights. Many Bethelites here at Warwick enjoy putting white string lights on their balconies as decorations, except during November and December. Why not then? Because in this region of the world, string lights are closely associated with Christmas, a false religious holiday. So our Bethel family avoids even the appearance of participating in that false religious celebration.
So I have made my notes like a good little JW. Number 1, how does Jehovah view customs? Okay, I have to remember that. Remember how Jehovah views customs whenever I am thinking of possibly doing something that I'm not sure about. Number 2, how will others in the congregation view me toasting? Exactly. How will they view? Hopefully I'm not offending anybody. Number 3, how do worldly people view me toasting? Yes, how do they view me? I have to keep that in mind. And number 4, remember to take down string lights during November and December, because we definitely wouldn't want that being associated with Christmas.
Another example is toasting or clinking glasses. For years, Jehovah's Witnesses have avoided this practice because it may have had origins in false religion. However, now, in most places, toasting or clinking glasses no longer has any religious association. It is viewed simply as a friendly custom. Therefore, after prayerful consideration, the governing body has concluded that there is no need to make a rule regarding toasting and clinking glasses. What does this mean? Are we saying that toasting is okay now at all times and in every situation? Of course not. We are simply saying that there is no need to make a rule. Jehovah doesn't burden us with endless rules.
Whoa, calm down there, Let. You looked a little angry when you said that. There's no need to make a rule. He seemed pretty angry when he said those things. And you're right, Let. Jehovah doesn't burden us with endless rules. So why do you? What is the difference in toasting or celebrating a birthday? Because birthdays do not anymore have a pagan origin. I really honestly don't believe they ever did, although another JW hangup is pagan holidays, and birthdays fall into that. So if toasting is okay now, then why isn't birthdays okay now? Who knows? They might change their mind again one day. But for now, you can toast, but only on certain occasions, and not every occasion is okay. So you're going to have to figure that out as a witness. So hopefully you can maybe look through some of the Watchtower magazines, Awake magazines, try to figure out what's okay, what isn't okay. And by the way, when I read the magazines and I'm trying to look for maybe an answer to a question I might have, like blood fractions, everything is just chaos. Hopefully the witnesses are not confused on this. They are allowed to toast under certain circumstances, but not all situations are they allowed to toast. To me, that seems more confusing than it's worth. Either let them do it or don't, but don't just be nitpicking about which situations are allowed. The same goes for other JW hangups, or maybe you could call it religious hangups. Every religion has their hangups, but Jehovah's Witnesses have way too many. One of them that I'd like to talk about briefly is the blood fractions. According to the articles in the Watchtower and Awake magazines and on JW Facts, it tells us that prior to 1945, that blood transfusions were allowed. But then between 1945 and 1982, nothing was allowed. Whole blood, major blood, and minor blood fractions were not allowed until up through 1982. And then from 1982 to 2000, whole blood and major blood was not allowed, but then minor blood fractions were considered some fractions allowed. That gets confusing, doesn't it? And then after 2000, they still are saying whole blood and major blood fractions are not allowed, but then now minor blood fractions are allowed. So what if you were in a time when blood fractions were not allowed, and maybe you needed a vaccine because vaccines do contain some blood? You wouldn't have gotten it. Let's not forget about the Rh factor. So when a woman is pregnant and she might have an Rh factor negative and the baby is a positive, then that can create a problem. So typically what they do, the doctors will give you a shot called the RHIG shot, which does contain blood. So does that mean you cannot have that? Well, prior to 1982, I assume, you were not allowed to have any blood fractions. And then in an article of the 1994 Awake, it says, is the RHIG shot made from blood? Yes, the antibodies that make up the shot are harvested from the blood of individuals who have become immunized to the Rh factor. The decision to get this shot, basically it says it's a matter for each Christian couple to decide conscientiously. Okay, so I remember my mother was in a situation like this. My brother was born in 1982. She called up Bethel asking if she was allowed to get this shot because she was Rh negative and he was positive. And they told her, no, do not take the shot. So she didn't. And fortunately, he turned out okay, but you never know what kind of health problems a child could have from this. And it's so unnecessary because they ended up changing their stance on it in the end. Let's not forget about another JW hangup, organ transplants. In the Awake article of 1949, December 22nd, page 20, if you'd like to look it up, organ transplants were originally described as wonderful and useful. But then in 1967, the Watchtower of November 15th says transplants are forbidden to witnesses and it's viewed as cannibalism. This continued to be the case throughout the 1970s. But then in the Watchtower of 1980, the society overturned the decision and transplants became acceptable once again. And that is the current situation. So if you needed an organ prior to 1980 and you died, then who is blood guilty here? And that's another thing they're hung up on is being blood guilty for not preaching enough. I mean, I could just go on and on and on about all of the hangups. There are so many. But then they blame you, the witness, because you didn't understand it right. You didn't get what Jehovah was saying. You should have known better. They always want to flip it back on the members. That's what makes it a cult, too. Okay, everybody. Another JW hangup is the flag salute. Yes, I know. They have never changed their stance on saluting the flag. They deem it as a type of worship, that you're actually worshiping the flag. That is not true. What it's only meaning is that you are showing your loyalty to the country you live in. That's all it means. But since they like to take it to a whole nother level, they tell kids that they cannot salute the flag when they're in school. Another thing that really, I would say, makes it confusing is the national anthem and school songs. So according to their little booklet, Jehovah's Witnesses, School and Jehovah's Witnesses, I remember having to hand this little booklet to all of my teachers when I was in school so that they could be aware of all of the JW hangups so that they could keep track with that because it's so many. So one of the things they say we cannot do is the national anthem, but it's a little tricky with that. So according to their website, jw.org, it says here, when national anthems are played, usually all that a person has to do to show that he shares the sentiments of the song is to stand up. In such cases, witness youth remain seated. However, if our youths are already standing when the national anthem is played, they would not have to take the special action of sitting down. It is not as though they had specifically stood up for the anthem. On the other hand, if a group are expected to stand and sing, then our young people may rise and stand out of respect. But they would show that they do not share the sentiments of the song by refraining from singing. Oh, okay. I have an interesting story to tell you about this. So, since they say if they ask you to please stand for the national anthem, you're supposed to stay seated. If you're already standing, then you can remain standing, but then you don't sing the song. I used to play an instrument in school, and we were sitting down about to play for an entire group of people in school. I used to play the viola. And so then they said, we were sitting down and they said, please stand for the national anthem. And my heart dropped. I was like, oh my God, everybody is looking at me. What am I going to do? And I stood there. I sat down. I kept seated. I did not stand up because I was already seated. And I'm sitting here thinking in my head, what do I do? What do I do? Do I sit? Do I stand? So I remained seated because I was already seated. And I look around and I see my mom is standing. And I just stayed seated, frozen, so extremely nervous. And then later, when I talked to her, I was like, why did you stand? She was like, well, it was okay to stand. And I was like, but I was sitting down. So you see what I mean? They put people in these awkward positions where they don't know what decision to make because they flip-flop so much. The same goes with the toasting. Is this situation okay or is it not okay? Is it okay to stand for the national anthem or is it not okay to stand for the national anthem? And it's too much to think about. It creates way too much unnecessary stress, especially on children. I mean, I was a child having to make these kind of ridiculous decisions. And you're only doing it because you think that that is what Jehovah wants you to do. But unknowingly, these people don't realize that they are being sold lies. And it is all driven by man. I'm going to share with you one more video that is about a woman who, when she was a little girl, she did not salute the flag. And this was during a time when everyone was very patriotic. So let's see what happened to her.
Patriotism was at fever pitch. Mom had prepared us well to appreciate our stand on the matter of flag salute. And the class started, and my teacher then noted that I was not saluting. And so she shouted, "Stop!" And the children stopped saying the pledge, and she says, "When I say salute, I mean everybody salute." I knew that I had to be loyal to Jehovah. And I was wanting to explain the reason why I couldn't salute the flag, but she was just so angry. In fact, she saw my hand by my side, and so she took it to put it over my heart, and I resisted her, and that just infuriated her. So much so that she just took me and just threw me up against the blackboard. I hit my head, my nose was beginning to bleed, and I was very upset. That was in the late spring, and it was that summer that I was baptized.
Carrie Lewis was one of thousands of witness children in the United States who boldly declined to salute the flag.
I feel sorry for this lady, Carrie. She has been a witness her whole life. And what happened to her as a child was uncalled for. There was no reason for the teacher to be mean like that. But at the same time, this could have been avoided had the governing body not made up these nonsense rules. And they knew back then that this was all a lie, that they weren't getting messages from Jehovah. They are not the mouthpiece of Jehovah God. And Ray Franz even said so. He said in his book, Crisis of Conscience, that they didn't even pray over things, and that Noor said, whenever it's written in the watchtower, it is the word of Jehovah God. So there you have it. These are just a few things that I noticed, all the hangups, and there will be many more to come. Stay tuned for more, and make sure that if you haven't already been watching the videos, I really appreciate you watching through the videos and liking and subscribing and sharing and commenting. So stay tuned for more, and we will see you again soon.
Brothers and sisters, please know that we love you all very much.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!